We're in week 2 of reclaiming our faith. Last week, Christy talked about reclaiming liturgy and worship, and today I want to talk about reclaiming community. Here's how Christy explained reclaiming. The Cambridge English Dictionary says that the word is defined as, quote, to take back something that was yours. Reclaim it. That's pretty good. The other definitions they offer are to, quote, make land, such as desert or areas covered by water suitable for farming or building, and, quote, to treat waste materials in order to get useful materials such as glass or paper that can be used again. I don't know what your experience of community has been, but maybe it is renewing waste materials so that they can be healthy and useful again. I know many of us have experienced toxic community. But when we reclaim something, we're taking back something that was once ours. We're making it suitable and life-giving again, and we're making it so that we can grow. Or we're treating waste materials in order for they to be useful again. And so I want you to keep this in mind as we move forward. Today, we're going to explore how we can reclaim a really important part of our faith: community. How can we reclaim the art of gathering, the beauty of community, the thing that you did when you showed up today? So thank you for being here. This would have been a lot more of an awkward sermon if there was no one here. It would have been, whew. Yeah. I was like, we have already failed. So thank you for being here. Hebrews 10:25 says it like this. He says, don't stop meeting together with other believers, which some people have gotten into the habit of doing. Instead, encourage each other, especially as you see the day drawing near. When we talk about community, this is one of the first verses that come to my mind. It's a classic proof text verse that I find beautiful and challenging all at the same time. But usually I read it as a call to, to keep coming to church, to keep gathering, to show up to your Bible study even when you don't want to be there. And it is, but as I was praying through this verse and thinking about it today, I started thinking, what if we turned it around a little bit? It tells us to not stop meeting together, but it doesn't ask the question why people stop meeting together. Why do people drift away from community? Why do people stop showing up? Not just to worship, but to friendships, to small groups, to neighborhood life. So we live in this really divided and disconnected society. And so if we're going to reclaim community, I think it's only going to be possible if we understand the very real hurdles we have in overcoming this tendency to disconnect. So, why do people stop coming to church? It's the question I wanted to explore this week. And it isn't a rhetorical question. I actually want to hear from you all. So I put out a survey a couple days ago. I've gotten a few people fill it out on social media. But I want to take a moment and have us fill it out now. So if you've already filled it out, you can skip this part. But if you haven't, this would make this time together so much more fun. So go ahead and pull out your phones. And use this QR code, and I sure hope it works. Someone nod if it is. Yes, awesome. And go ahead and take the survey. I'll even, if you need to zone out because it's easier to take it, that's fine. But just for everyone else, I'm going to just walk through the questions here. The first one is, how often do you currently attend a church service or gathering? It's anonymous. You don't have to, no posturing involved. Just be honest. Second one is, how have you ever been deeply involved in a church or faith community before? The next one has quite a few options. What are the main reasons you stopped attending church or attend less often? So take a few moments, read through those, and check all that apply. The next one is, how important are the following to you in a faith community? 1 is not important at all. 5 is very important. And of course, you can select any in between. And you can kind of read through those and check the ones that make sense, how important they are to you. See a few of you blazed through and made submissions already. Good job. You won. There's 4 of you that won, all came through. Next one is, do you still consider yourself a person of faith? And then I'll read the last 2 and then give you time to reflect on this, as I see a lot of people are submitting. In what ways do you currently connect with God or express your spirituality? And what would make you more likely to reconnect with a faith community? And then you can answer those questions if you want. But when you're done, just kind of, I feel like a teacher. When you're done, just look up, look forward, so we know. Isn't that what, do teachers do that? I don't know. Give you a couple more moments to hit submit. We will show you the results too. This is going to be super fun. Oh, great. Look at that. 50 responses. That's a good number for you all. Good job. 53. Oh, they're coming in now. Can we get 54? Can we get 60? Feel free if you need more time to keep doing that. As I was thinking about what this meant to reclaim community, I stumbled upon an Atlantic article. You might be familiar with it. It came out, I think, recently, called The Anti-Social Century. It was the cover story for this particular issue of The Atlantic. And it was really fascinating. It wasn't written about church at all. It wasn't written for pastors or churches. It was really just written about everyday life in America. And it was a really long article. I do commend it to you if you have the time and you like long form writing. It was well researched, very interesting. You can check it out. I get an Apple News Plus with some extra, I don't know, through like my cell phone or something. I don't know. But I was able to read it on that if you have that, or if you have a subscription to Atlantic. I do have a version of it. If you're interested, I'll be happy to share with you. But it described a lot of things that I feel like many of us feel and that we struggle with. And I realized that it wasn't just a church struggle. So the author lays out how every part of the American life, how we eat, how we live, what we watch, how we communicate, has slowly shifted our lives from public and shared life together to much more private and solitary. And so I wanted to just kind of walk through some of these. One of the things that I've learned over the years is that technology is always the greatest influence on our lives. More than church, more than political parties. Conservatives and progressives are being influenced by the 24 news cycle in similar ways, regardless of whether they're in different directions. It's as Marshall McLuhan said, the medium is the message. Like the technology that we use, the way in which we consume information is influencing us more than even what that information says. And so as I was reading this article, I was thinking about these studies that the author references and the way in which technology was showing up in these studies. So I want to walk through about 5 of them, modern technology and how they've made us less likely to be in community. So the first one is pretty obvious: cars and suburbs. Spoken as a true Californian. Did you ride your bike this morning? It would have been great had you. You do often, though. Once upon a time, community was built on walking distance, but you saw your neighbors at the store and at church and at the corner diner. But with the invention of the automobile, society got spread out more and more, which is really terrifying, because when C.S. Lewis decided to describe hell in The Great Divorce, if you've not read it, it was a suburb. I'm not anti-suburb. My wife is, but I'm not. And so she is. But you should talk to her about it sometime. But it was this This sense of like people living in isolation, and they would get mad at their neighbors, so they'd move even further apart. This was C.S. Lewis's depiction of hell. And it would just be the sort of self-preservation and selfishness just pushing us further and further apart till people were utterly and completely alone. Which makes sense if we carry the very image of God, even in the afterlife. Hell isn't hell until we're completely and utterly disconnected from God and the image of God and others. The Atlantic puts it like this. Starting in the second half of the century, Americans used their cars to move further and further away from one another, enabling the growth of the suburbs, and with it, a retreat into private backyard patios, private pools, and more private life. So while cars are the way in which we've connected, they also disconnect. This impacts our church in a lot of ways. We have people who drive long distances to come to church here, and it's great, and I absolutely love it, and I'm so glad to have you here. But it also makes it hard to get together, and it's something we hear from people a lot. Like, oh, we all live so far apart. It's hard to, like, outside of Sunday, it's really hard to like build community because you're shopping at different grocery stores and you're going to different schools, completely different school districts. I'm actually curious, how many, raise your hand if you drove 15 minutes or more to get here. All right, keep it up if you drove 20 minutes or more. 30 minutes? 40 minutes? 30 minutes. I skipped 30. Did I not? Okay, 30. Anyone 40? I don't know what's going on. So we got 3 people who drew out 30 minutes, all right? How long exactly? About 30 minutes or 35? All right, this morning. I have a prize for the longest drive. No, actually I don't. I don't have a prize, I was just curious. I will give you a hug later, yeah. And a free oil change. That's what I should do. For all those miles you put on. Cars are great, but they've made connection harder. Here's the next one. This is inviting you to think about how technology has changed how we are in community. The next one is TV and streaming. Here are a few statistics that are going to really bother you. In the 1970s, only 6% of 6th graders had a TV in their bedroom. By 1999, 77% do. I know some of the kids in the room are like, what? Yeah, you are part of that, 23%? Our church is the 23%, I'm sure. Finn does not have a TV in his bedroom, so it's fine. But I'm not saying, if you do, no judgment here. I'm just saying, there's a huge shift. The article says that it goes on and gives another, from 1965 to 1995, the typical adult gains 6 hours a week in leisure time. So as technology advances and jobs change, you get more leisure time. This is great. You have more time to do fun stuff. And gain 6 hours of leisure time. Instead, the majority funneled almost all of that extra time into watching more TV. Guilty as charged. We gain 6 more hours to do what we want, and of course, we turn the screen on. The average adult now watches 19 hours a week, which, they're clearly not binging anything of significance. So really need to work on that. That's equivalent to about 8 movies, of course. We used to spend that time eating with friends or volunteering or even, showing up to community. But now it's Netflix and YouTube. And here's the next one. Our next advancement, smartphones and tablets came. Now we can watch things in our pocket. The article cites research that says that American teens spend 4 to 6 hours a day on screens. Finn probably spends more than that, in the summer at least, when we don't have childcare and he's not at a camp. Being honest. Meanwhile, the share of young people who, quote, hang out with friends almost daily. So the number of young people who hang out with friends almost daily has fallen by half, 50%, since the 1990s. They said it like this: phones mean that solitude is more crowded than it used to be, and crowds are more solitary. What the author is suggesting is that we used to, when we were alone, and so then you would eventually want to be around people. But now when we're alone, we have all these people texting us, so you're not really alone. So then you don't really have the desire to get out of your house and be around people. I'm not saying this is true or not. It's what the author's making the case of. And then when you show up around other people, you're on your phones. So when you're alone, you're not really alone. And when you're with other people, you're not really with other people. So that leads us to the next one. Takeout and delivery. DoorDash made an appearance earlier. We should ask them to sponsor. This one did hit me a little bit. The author tells a story right at the start about a bar and how it used to be a hub for people to hang out, but now the bar, because it's a small restaurant, the bar is just filled with takeout orders. And the manager was like, I hate it. I mean, I know it disconnects the authors who do show up. I mean, not the people who show up to eat, it kind of makes it awkward because they can't sit at the bar and there's less community, but that's where all of our income comes from. Before the pandemic, 61% of restaurant traffic was takeout or delivery. In 2023, it rose to 74%. And solo dining, people eating alone, which I discovered recently, like a couple years ago, I was like, you can just go to restaurants by yourself. Did you know that? I know this, he's saying don't do this, but I'm just saying like it is kind of fun. And I've done this a few times. I felt guilty at first, but then you get over it. It rose nearly 30% in just 2 years. And I'm like, yeah, I was part of that. And so this sense of like even sharing space at restaurants and things like that have moved increasingly to takeout. And we do this all the time. We're like, oh my gosh, we don't want to leave the house. And so I'll just eat, at home in front of the TV. And I don't think any of this is bad. It's something to think about as we think about what it means to be a community. There are real social norms that are established, that are influencing who we are. So the next one is this: bigger and busier home life. The average new home today is 50% bigger than it was in 1973. We're building these little palaces for us to live in. And then, why would you ever want to leave? I mean, that's 50% bigger than 1973. And 98% of new homes have air conditioning, so this is a big thing as well. There was a lot of homes previously, and even in my neighborhood, there are homes without air conditioning, but you're more likely to stay home if your home is comfortable. And I'm not saying that's a bad thing. It influences our willingness to leave the house. That means we don't have to go outside for relief or for company. Sociologist Patrick Sharkey found that by 2022, adults were spending 99 more minutes at home every day than in 2003. Over 20 years, they were spending almost 100 minutes at home every day more often. And he calls it the rise of the remote life. So not just remote work, but remote everything. Remote shopping, remote eating, remote worshiping, remote entertainment. And here's the really sobering part. One report suggested that people who spend more time at home report lower happiness on average. Architects say that the way in which they build apartments has completely changed. They used to think about okay, is there going to be lots of good natural light and the flow and the arrangement? Now apartments and homes are built primarily to determine where someone would mount the TV. That's how the apartments and homes are built. Where would the TV go in the bedroom? Where would it go in the kitchen? Where would it go in the living room? Look, and I'm no judgment here. I am not going to stop watching. I actually really enjoy watching TV, so I don't plan on stopping it. But we have to sit with this. We have to wrestle with it. There's no shame. I don't have any shame. I don't have any shame. Some of you might, but I don't. This is just the world we live in, and I think it's worth wrestling with as we think about what it means to be a community, and we have to be aware of it. So when you step back and you look at it all together, it really is this century of solitude. This is what we're up against. According to the American Time Youth Survey, Americans now spend more time alone than at any point since the records began in 1965. Here's the crazy part. People spend more time alone now at home than they did during the pandemic, on average. So something happened there that we've just kind of carried. Between 2003 and 2023, in-person socializing dropped by more than 20%, and among Unmarried adults under 25, it dropped by 35%. So, here's why I share this. A little personal privilege. There is a part of this that is actually really good news for me. Let me pull back the curtain and tell you what it's like to be a pastor in 2025. Ask our staff how much time we spent discussing whether we'll hold an event or not, and whether we think people will show up. Right, Christy? Oh, so much stress, so much anxiety. Why didn't anyone come? We've hosted stuff that no one shows up to. It used to be like a great source of anxiety for me. It's for pastors, just FYI, whenever they do something and no one shows up, it's almost embarrassing. I've reached a point in my life where I'm just like, whatever. We live post-pandemic. I know, but we wrestle with this and we struggle with this and it makes us anxious and we wonder. And it's very tempting as a pastor to wonder, like whether it's worship attendance or small groups or community events, like when people don't show up, no one shows up, not enough people show up. And it's just like, there's a part of me that's like, maybe, is it me? Did I do something wrong? Did we not plan this well enough, market it well enough? Where did we fall short? And then I read all of this and I'm like, you know what? At least I know it's not me, It's not me, it's you. And, but I mean, it's not me, it's us. It's just it's the water we swim in. Holding events where people show up in person is going against the current of the society in which we live in. Not for all of us. Some of us still value this. And that's one thing that I was talking to Dan about this before the service, and he said, one of the things I love about City View is people keep showing up. And it's true. I don't want to make it sound like you don't. You're here. This whole room is full. There's not a single pew that's empty except for maybe these front ones here, which is, I get really close to them, so I get it. But otherwise, you're here. You made it. Last night, we had a fall event, and we probably had 50, 60 people. That's our average attendance. Come out, sit around fires, eat cookies, have fun. It was great. It was fun. You showed up. And so I'm really grateful, and that's really what I want you to hear more than anything else, is that showing up is its own form of resistance. Now, before we close, let's see if we can show you a little bit what you guys said and whether it matches up at all with what we've learned. We ended up with 61 responses. Now I'm going to try to cast my iPad to the screens. It worked before the service, and we joked that it probably wouldn't after. Let me just see. I got to make sure I'm on the right Wi-Fi there. And hey, look at that. All right, so here we go. So how often do you currently attend a church service or gathering? 46% said weekly, 32% said a few times a month, 14% said occasionally, really small amount said rarely, and a few said not at all. I'm assuming the not at all were some of the people who filled it out ahead of time because you are here, so that just wouldn't make any sense. I don't know. All right. Have you ever been deeply involved in a church? So the majority of people who filled this out, 81%, is yes. That's the blue. And somewhat, and then a few said no. Once again, I shared this on social media, so it's a variety of different people. So what are the main reasons you stopped attending church or attend less often? And what you see here is the biggest reason people stopped attending church was a disagreement with leadership or theology. Okay, so all of that insecurity I had earlier, it is very warranted. Yeah, and I'll be candid with you. I am probably the biggest reason people stop attending church. I hope that's not the case. I know I can come across the wrong way. I can say the wrong thing in a sermon. I can say it the wrong way. I cannot follow up with someone quick enough, or didn't visit them in the hospital when they wanted me to, but I didn't know it. There's so many things, and I've been doing this long enough that I'm aware of that, and I am sorry if I've ever done that for you. And here's the thing. If you just talk to me, I'd love to make it right. If you know me at all, I'd love to make it right. Okay, so I'll just say that and then we'll move on. The next one was busy schedule and family demands. 51%. Busy schedule and family demands. Isn't that true? My wife had a particularly difficult week this week, and she doesn't want me to tell this. I apologize, but none of you have to tell her I said it, so it's fine. She said, I feel like I'm having a midlife crisis, but I'm like too busy to deal with it. Anyone else? I feel like she spoke for an entire generation. I feel like I'm having a midlife crisis, but I'm like too busy to even have time to deal with it. And I know we are extremely busy. And I know that we find community in other places. We find it on the soccer field and baseball fields and at our kids' recitals. And I mean, there's a lot of things vying for our attention, and I get that. And I know that church isn't always one of them, and that's fine. We'll look at a couple more here real quick. Disillusioned with religion was 35%. A lot of people have moved or lost connection. Another big one was hypocrisy or church politics. It's a big one. And another one similar to being busy is just burnout or exhaustion. Others had different responses there. What you're looking for in a faith community, and then I'll try to blaze through this as we come to a close in our service, but a lot of people, authentic relationships was really important. Zoom in here. See that? Opportunities to serve, not as important. You guys already told us you're busy. I get it. Thank you to everyone who does serve. I know you're busy. I know it's hard. I know coming to church once a month, serving in the kids, making coffee, it takes a lot out of you, and you already have a lot going on. So just thank you. It's what it keeps this thing going that we're trying to do. Engaging worship, pretty important. Inclusive and affirming community. I have to scroll down. It's important to us, and I know it's important to you as well. Biblical teaching, not as important as inclusive and affirming, which is ironic because, when I get this wrong, you leave, but it's not important till it is, Do you still consider yourself a person of faith? Like I said, most people here filled it out, so that would be, selection. In what ways do you currently connect with God? A lot of people engage in personal meditation. There's quite a bit of nature or solitude. I don't think these are bad things. Solitude is a practice in our Christian faith, so I'm not critiquing solitude. I don't think solitude is anti-community. Social activism is really important as well. So all of these, I believe. And what would make you more likely to connect to a faith community? The number one response, more authentic relationships. Let me give you I'll tell you something about our church. We have a great website. We do. People tell us all the time. We haven't updated it forever, and people still say, you got a great website. And we've got really great search engine optimization, okay? This is just reality. So people find us when they're looking for a church. They're looking for an inclusive church with children's ministry or worship. People find us. We have visitors in our community almost every Sunday. That's a fact. There are very rare Sundays where we don't have somebody visiting. But people are already coming through our doors. But when you ask people who stick around, why are they stuck around? It's not because we have a great website. You don't stick around for that. It's not because we're easy to find on Google. You don't need it anymore. You've already gotten here. It's not because of, what I have to say up front, even. They might leave because of something I say up front, but they don't stay because of what I say up front. That's the great irony of all this. The number one reason we hear from people is because of authentic relationships. That's how we build community. I mean, isn't that the heart of what community is? People stick around because they built relationships and they have new friends. And so the question is, if you've been coming for a while, do you take time to introduce yourself? The person sitting behind you, to welcome the visitor, to say hello, take a moment and just be friendly. Invite someone to lunch. Invite someone over to your house. In fact, my challenge for you, and the band can come up as I come to a close, is we've got these We got these technologies that have shaped us, and I want you to just kind of think about one and name it over the coming weeks and try to counter it. So you got cars and suburbs, distance is a barrier, TV and streaming, and so distractions are a barrier, cell phones and tablets, and so we've always, we don't spend enough time alone truly to want to be around people. Takeout and delivery, and bigger and busier homes. So I want you over the next couple of weeks and months to think about, not out of guilt or shame, but just to consider one of these technologies that's shaping how we interact, and think about how you might push back against it. Just resist it a little bit. Maybe you might drive less and walk or carpool with a friend, or drive more. Maybe you'll get in the car, as annoying as traffic can be, which I find it very annoying, and you just show up somewhere. It was inconvenient and it took time out of your day, but you drive, you walk, and you show up. You turn off the TV one night and you invite someone over. Or maybe you leave your phone in another room and you try to be fully present with someone. Or maybe you order takeout less and you prepare a meal and have people share a meal at your table. Or maybe you step outside your comfortable home and you join a gathering or a group or a cause. My challenge for you is there are very real barriers in our life, and the invitation is just as people who are following Jesus, who were told by Jesus that when two or more are gathered, I am there, that something magical and mystical and beautiful happens when a couple of us get together, that you might just look at some of the barriers that we experience in our life and just resist one of them a little bit. Just challenge yourself a little bit. Show up and see what God will do when we start reclaiming community. Let's pray. God, we give you thanks, and we do trust that you're able to meet us, and that we've gathered here, and I'm so grateful for this community and for all that it represents, for the authenticity and the vulnerability, for the inclusion. God, we give you thanks. For all those who are here, for all those who couldn't be with us today, and for all of those who've gone before us, a great cloud of witnesses that is cheering us on and telling us, don't give up. Keep going. Keep going and trusting that God will keep showing up. Give you thanks in your name.